We got a former U.S. Army sniper talking about the failed assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Now, according to him, this was an easy shot to make. In fact, a number of former military personnel have also come out to talk about this same shot, one of which says that it's possible that the shooter did not act alone, that he needed outside help to even get to a point within the range of the former president. We are now aware of the identity of the shooter. 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, as we know, tried to assassinate Donald Trump in a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Crooks was found to be a Republican, although he's known to donate to Democrats. I know, a little bit confusing, but this is what we know so far. He was said to have worked in a local nursing home kitchen where staff members have said that he passed a background check with no concerns raised. Now, Crooks was also said to have been a member of a local shooting club called Clariton Sportsman's Club. It includes multiple gun ranges, which includes a high-power rifle facility with targets as far as 560 feet, which, according to former U.S. Army sniper Representative Cory Mills, is one of the most basic shots that they're taught in the Army.
What kind of shot was this, Cory, from 130 yards?
Look, at the end of the day, this is a shot that your basic training boot camp soldier is requested to make within their 9-week period. This is one of the easiest shots, and they train all the way out till 300 or 500. And when I was doing the counter sniper, it wasn't with the United States Army. It was actually when I was with the State Department and was doing this exact thing, which is trying to look at going out with an advanced team, establishing what the perimeter is. And then as a sniper, when you would set up, you'd put together your range sketch or your range fan cards. And that would tell you where your 100, your 200, your 300, and you'd identify the areas of threat that you would be able to mitigate. And if there's multiple targets, you understand that your elevation and windage knob wouldn't have to be messed with, especially at 160 yards. You could literally just look, quickly glance, and know from the reference point, whether it be a building, whether it be a lone tree, whether it be a parking lot, maybe it's a road. Bottom line is that this is massive negligence to the point of me speculating on what was intentional and what wasn't.
Wow. When you're doing a site survey and you're seeing this rooftop not that far away, why did it look like the counter sniper team was a little surprised?
You know, I can only speculate, and we'll have to wait until the investigation comes out, that they thought local law enforcement was potentially climbing up onto the roof when they saw a dark object on a light roof. But here's the issue.
Wait, you're saying maybe they misconstrued Crooks for a friendly, for local law enforcement?
It's very possible. I don't want to speculate until the investigation is over, but the bottom line is that if you saw someone climbing onto a roof that you hadn't authorized any clearance on, it's got a clear line of sight. It's exactly adjacent to the shooting where the president was sitting, and you're talking about a pop shot, and you got people yelling, and there should have been comms. The minute that local law enforcement, who apparently had a rifle pointed on, there should have been an emergency frequent comms channel that they could have said, we have a shooter on the roof, shooter on the roof. Secret Service should have rushed the stage and immediately took the president and took him off, and then responded to the counter sniper. The shot should not have gone off. That is the failure in itself. You're supposed to be able to try and, the best security is when you go in and you're actually able to prevent an incident, not react to an incident.
So Mills also called out the Biden administration for having massive DEI hires. He also said that there's no excuse in allowing a shooter to take multiple shots with counter snipers just 100 yards or 300 feet from the subject, which now opens up a very, very scary scenario. Did the shooter have help from the inside? This is what Dallas Alexander's saying. So Alexander's a veteran sniper who belongs to the team that holds the world record for the longest confirmed sniper kill. He also spent 14 years in a sniper team for the Canadian military doing close protection for major world leaders, including the Canadian Prime Minister. Now, according to him, it's likely that Crooks had help from the inside. He says that he's very familiar with the layout of these types of events and what the job should be. Alexander also confirmed that he has no doubts in his mind that the shooter had help from somewhere within an agency, maybe an organization, or the government itself. Now, remember, the FBI hasn't finished their investigation, but they're already claiming that Crooks acted alone. Is that jumping the gun a little bit? No pun intended. But Alexander claims that the roof that had a clear sight of the president should have been secured. Now, it's part of the perimeter that the Secret Service should have easily had locked down.
We received a statement from the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, who responded to some of the criticism the agency has received. She said that they are working with all federal and state and local agencies, and they understand how it would happen and to prevent it from ever happening in the future. She also also says that they're prepared to participate in the independent oversight that President Biden has called for, and also to work with the oversight committees in Congress. It's important to keep in mind the Secret Service was already the subject of a great deal of criticism from members of Congress for a series of lapses at the agency. The assassination attempt against former President Trump has now led to a flood of calls for investigations into what went wrong and how the agency should be changed.
Take a look at what happened.
From the moments after the attempt on former President Trump's life, the reports of security lapses came quickly.
We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police are like, huh, what? You know, like they didn't know what was going on.
The building where the alleged shooter's body was found was roughly 148 yards from where the president spoke and outside the Secret Service's security perimeter. And two sources familiar with the agency's operations tell NBC News its roof was identified as a potential vulnerability ahead of the event. A spokesperson for the Secret Service says they designated that rooftop under the jurisdiction of local law enforcement and worked with them to maintain event security, but no one was posted on this particular building.
And it's why he believes that there's just something more to this. He claims that there's no way that a shooter could get that close to a former president in broad daylight. There should be no situation where you can get into a position with a gun that close to a president of the United States. He even said that people don't even have to be a sniper to understand the concept here. Even kids who play video games nowadays, they know of the dangers and the advantages of holding the high ground, especially if we're talking about high-powered rifles that could easily shoot long distances. Although, he says that he's not pointing fingers at anyone, but he argues that it's obvious that this guy had some help. So the FBI on their end is saying that they had nothing to do with this. A former senior FBI official who was granted anonymity said that they are not involved with the problem, basically shoving the Secret Service under the bus. The FBI has a lot to make up for because, as you guys might remember, Donald Trump claimed that they were already ready to kill him when they raided his Mar-a-Lago residence, something that the FBI pushes back on. Remember, the FBI had lethal force authorized. In other words, there could have been a shootout at Donald Trump's home when picking up these classified documents, something that the FBI has pushed back on. Representative Lance Goodin of Texas posted on X regarding the concern from Republicans regarding this investigation. He says that his constituents, they don't have the faith in the current FBI leadership to get the truth, given how they have targeted President Donald Trump with political witch hunt after witch hunt at the behest of Joe Biden. Besides Alexander, retired Green Beret and sniper Matthew Murphy agreed with the idea that this was a coordinated attack. In a post on social media, Murphy was quoted in saying, "You're going to tell me that kid went through all these levels of security, somehow got into the closest building to the president and accessed the rooftop, then had time to unpack his rifle, lay down, and take 5, maybe 8 well-aimed shots at the president before he was decisively engaged?" Now, when you unpack it in this manner, it really kind of puts everything into perspective, doesn't it? What do y'all think? Do you agree with these experts and former snipers that this may have been more than just a security breach? Now, speaking of which, I did a previous video where I discussed the former Secret Service Dan Bongino's point of view regarding this assassination attempt. And much like these snipers, Bongino was also capable of pointing out something that many of us missed. So make sure you guys check that video out after this one because I discussed it in a lot more detail over there. As always, thanks so much for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing and sharing the content, and I'll see you guys on the next one.